Tom and Jack for a Wednesday morning. Jack, have you wished Kurt Angle a happy birthday yet?
No, I didn't even realise it was his birthday.
Oh,
Wow.
mate.
Oh, what a faux pas.
I've got a card for him. If I post it to you, can you sign it and then send it?
I'll take it round everybody's flats and get everybody to sign their names on it, yeah. And then
I'm
we'll
going to send him some milk as well, but I'm nervous as to what condition it'll be when it gets there.
all the way to Pittsburgh.
Exactly, it'd be lovely. Hey, happy birthday, Kurt. We know you love Cultaholic. Thanks for watching. And just for you, Kurt Angle, and no one else, here's some wrestling news. Huge names are being considered for WrestleMania 37. CM Punk says he is open to a wrestling return, and multiple AEW personalities appear on Impact Wrestling. We'll get into that in a bit. But first, WrestleMania season. Again, nearly. And we might get a proper one this year, Jack. Well, not this year, next year, rather. Heaven forfend we do anything proper this year. Next year, we might get a proper WrestleMania.
I think hopefully we do, but I will say, if it's not safe to do so, then I'm not going to be pushing for it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be furious if they are on the side of caution.
They're certainly hedging their bets as to what it's going to look like, and indeed for one of the bigger matches of the show. So Wrestle Talk has learned that WWE is hoping that we're going to get a showdown between The Rock and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Now, this has been talked about before, and Jack, as somebody who watches SmackDown as well, it seems like a logical conclusion, doesn't it, to end up with The Rock and Roman?
It very much does, because Roman's heel run has all been centered around his family and how he's the head of the table and how he's been accepted as the head of the table by the Wild Samoans, Afa and Sita, but he's been kind of mean to poor Jey Uso, hasn't he? So he's been kind of using his family name for all this power and all of this influence and to be the big man. And, you know, he's been claiming that he's the biggest name in his family. Well, you know, I don't know. I think there's a certain individual who might have a bigger claim on that, but...
That's right, Rikishi.
That's the one.
That's the one.
The Usos' dad's going to come in and sort out Roman for bullying his son.
Or Manu, either or.
Yes.
Now, before you get all het up on the keyboard and go, we already know about Rock and Roman, shut up, Tom's not funny. Before we do any of that, just to let you know, this is obviously something that's out there in the world right now, but this is dependent on COVID circumstances and Rock's movie schedule. There are reports of alternatives if we can't get Rock and Roman. Do you want to hear some of these alternatives for Roman at Mania, Jack?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, number one, Big E.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
I like the vibe of Big E having a go at Roman. That feels like good times.
He was really heavily rumoured a bit earlier on in the year when the New Day broke up, and there was a bit of a push that Big E was given. But then he was really absent from Survivor Series when everybody thought he was a big candidate to be maybe a sole survivor in the Survivor Series match, continuing that push. I think he still remains one of the favourites for the Men's Royal Rumble match, but I don't know now. He's been gone for a bit, or he's been in a less prominent role right now on SmackDown. But there's always time to, refuel his push in time for Mania if they want to.
Option 2, behind door number 2, is Daniel Bryan.
Well, I thought Bryan was maybe going to be Roman's opponent at the Royal Rumble. Not in the match, obviously, their own separate singles match. And I think he could be Roman's last big roadblock on the way to defending the title at WrestleMania. What do you think? I don't know.
Daniel Bryan's really good in that role. And I feel like he's fell into that role a couple of times now as the sort of the final stop on the road. He's been the mini boss and the final boss in wrestling, but I think he fits in well in that mini boss role. But like Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns has a different feel to it this time round, because you've got this nasty piece of work in Roman Reigns, this passionate, angry Samoan, and then you've got Daniel Bryan, who is fairly vocal about the fact that this is going to be his last run. So it does shift you'll be pulling for Daniel Bryan to have that one more time as WWE champion. So that one would be quite nice as well. The other option, in case of emergency, break glass. on this occasion is to possibly do what we were meant to get last year, which is Roman Reigns versus Goldberg.
Right, the Sam Driver feud, as it's often known.
Yeah, Sam Driver started that one.
Accidentally on Twitter, Sam did start it. He tweeted about the little pad that is under Roman's hand when he used to punch the stage during his entrance. And Sam noticed there was a little protective pad there. And Roman said something along the lines of, like, it's to protect my hand if I do it several times a week. It's not going to be good on my fist. And everyone sort of went, yeah, fair enough. Everyone accepted that. Apart from Bill, who thought it was soft, because Bill headbutts the door before he goes out for a match like a real man.
And should that match go down, does it conclude with Sam Driver doing a run-in and eating a hat?
Yes, that would be the perfect conclusion. It would confuse 95% of the WrestleMania audience. But...
I love a gag that only a minutiae of people truly get. Those are my favourite gags. So some options there for WrestleMania opponents. If we don't get The Rock, Jack, is there a particular favourite of those?
For me, I'd say that my favourite of those three would probably be Daniel Bryan, but I'm sceptical because for some reason I've just convinced myself he's going to be Roman's opponent at the Royal Rumble. Assuming Roman beats Kevin Owens at TLC, which he almost certainly will. Surely. I mean, I'd love for Kev to beat him, but Roman's going to win.
Yeah, I think it's going to be in it. It's got to be Roman. I personally think that maybe Goldberg and Reigns that's a real emergency option, and I don't want it. Big E, I think. Big E is.
You like Big E, right? Fair enough.
Yeah, I feel like that's nice. I like the idea of. I think Big E has done such good work as a singles guy, and I wouldn't be against him fighting Roman Reigns. It's a fresh match. It's a different dynamic there as well. I like that idea. I think people can get behind that. It's the whole thing of, hey, Kofi fulfilled his lifelong dream at WrestleMania a few years ago. Maybe it's Big E's turn now.
Yeah,
like that gives me warm fuzzies. You know, I'm down for that. But we'll see what pans out. Hopefully we get Rock and Roman, because that's the daddy of the main events. Look in my eyes. What do you see? It's CM Punk chatting to Renee.
Very nicely done. Very good. Very good.
I've just got a sweat on doing that one. Renee Paquette had CM Punk on the Oral Sessions, her podcast. Hey, she's done well for guests, hasn't she? I don't know how she got John Moxley for episode 1. That's a bit of a coup.
I wonder if their schedules just happened to match up on that day.
That must have been what it is. I know why it is. Please don't mention anything. But then to get CM Punk on was great. And it was beautiful. It was like a reuniting of the WWE backstage gang. And it also felt like a little bit of a whinging session, which I like, a bit of a cathartic moaning session about your old employees, you know? Which I quite liked.
If anyone's a good whinger, CM Punk is an Olympic caliber whinger. He is great at having a rant. I would listen to him complain about anything over anybody, I think.
He talks about a whole number of things, including what it would take for him to return to wrestling. We'll get to that in a second. On the subject of whether a wrestler's union would happen, CM Punk said no, because there's no such thing as the boys. Well, they say, oh, it's a trope. We're on the road. These people are our family. Once you're out of the bubble, you don't hear from anybody anymore.
Ooh.
These people don't pay your bills. And it gets better when he says, there seems to be a lot of people that not only by nature are bootlickers, they just love the taste.
Oh, dear me. I mean, it's a very grim, realism-based look at the warm family nature of the wrestling industry, isn't it? Saying that, well, it is a job at the end of the day. They're not your real family. They don't care once you're gone. And I think,
there's a bit of truth to that, though, with any job. I bet, like, you think of the people that, from your first job, how many of them that, stay in touch.
What, from Debenhams Kitchen? I don't really see much of Demi anymore, or Chelsea. I was the only boy in the Debenhams Kitchen, and I got bullied mercilessly for it. Anyway,
They say they're the boys on the road, don't they? The Debenhams Kitchen. And then all of a sudden, when you're out of the bubble, when you're out of the loop, they couldn't be bothered with you.
Whenever we walked in to start a shift at the Debenhams Kitchen, we'd all do a little handshake, just out the view of the customers. Just.
Oh, is there a secret Debenhams Kitchen handshake?
No, not at all. I just made that up. I'm sorry.
I kind of hope there would be. Did you do stuff to pop the boys? Like sometimes put an extra slice of bacon on a breakfast. Just doing that to pop the boys.
Oh, dear me. No, I don't stay in touch with any of my old Debenhams colleagues, but if any of them are watching, get in touch.
Big shout, Demi. You'll get your push one day. Whether a wrestlers' union would ever happen, he's basically saying no. When it comes to stuff like Twitch, CM Punk's just called out something that was quite intriguing. He said that it's strange how WWE gives Xavier Woods the blessing to do stuff on the G4 network, yet somebody like Zelina Vega can't have a Twitch account.
Yeah, there's a bit of a double standard there, I suppose. It seems one rule for Woods and one. I'm not having to go at Xavier Woods. Obviously, very pleased for him. But yeah, that is a bit of a strange double standard, I suppose. Yeah.
They go on to talk about little things like that within WWE. CM Punk talking about movie roles. Saying, I remember one particular person got a role playing a wrestler because they knew somebody who was producing this television show for a certain channel. When he got shuffled to The Office, all of a sudden, he couldn't do it. And the next thing you know, John Cena is doing it. This is apparently something that happened quite a bit, where it's the old Hey Arnold episode, Get the Ball to Tucker. That's what we're doing here. Just as long as John's like, a lot of stuff like that got given to guys like John Cena. CM Punk also talks about being at a bachelor party and getting a tour of a pinball factory, because that's a stag do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some people do shots and go and do adventure game rooms and stuff, but no, tour of a pinball factory. But he says when he was there, he met the guy who was the owner of the factory, and he said, we did this WWE Wrestlemania pinball machine. We wanted you on it, and Vince and company said no. We want the following guys on it. And that never. And then he even goes on to say, he was on the cover of WWE 13. Do you remember that? And they did all the advertisements with him on the podium. They were brilliant, weren't they?
Yeah.
They never nearly happened because
really?
CM Punk was seeing emails that went back and forth between THQ and WWE. WWE saying, we don't want CM Punk on the cover. You can have Sheamus, Miz, or John Cena.
Yeah, fair. Now, I mean, I like the story of. Was it one of the old SmackDown games? Maybe a SmackDown versus Raw? Maybe even a bit more recent. But apparently there was a memo that was given to the developer or to the production team behind the release of the game, saying, "Yeah, we want Triple H included in the official screenshots or on the back or something of the disc, but you can't show him to be in a weak or submissive position. He has to be winning if you use a screenshot of the game." I like that.
It's exhausting. But obviously they went to bat for CM Punk at THQ, and they went, no, he's going on the cover, or you're not getting a game.
Fair enough.
We got a game. And then Renee went through something similar. She's having a bit of a vent as well. She wanted a cooking show. She wanted to do a cooking show with WWE, and they talked about it, and they liked the idea so much they let Bo Dallas do a cooking show instead.
Oh, that's a strange switcheroo. Bo Dallas.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say they gave it to John Cena, not Bo Dallas.
That would have been fine.
Yeah.
But no, and little things like Renee says, like she wanted to do a podcast while they were there, and they went, no podcast for you, stop it. And so it's just they've got an idea in their head, haven't they, of who they want to get over, and not just within the ring, but everything around it as well. Like This is the focus, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a strange one. I know that CM Punk's brought a lot of this up in this recent interview or this recent podcast with Renee, but you kind of got a sense that was happening anyway, didn't you, from all the little stories that would come out and all the little things that would happen.
And to wrap it all up, on the subject of competing again, so it wouldn't be a year in wrestling without the tease of a CM Punk return. And he opens up and he says, now on the question of what would it take to return to wrestling, CM Punk says the following: it would take, above all, an interesting scenario, a story that would be fun to tell. Also, quote, just the stupidest amount of money.
That's very honest of him. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but he says they said the potential employer could save a whole lot of money if they just presented a fun storyline. So if it's the right thing for him, he would happily do it. He also said that when it comes to where he would do a run, he says there's more interesting people on the AEW side of things for me to wrestle. That's because I've never wrestled them before. Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, etc. On the WWE side of things, I don't know if there's anybody there currently that I haven't wrestled that I would be interested in wrestling.
I mean, if I was Tony Khan, upon hearing that, I think I'd just throw the money at him straight away, because there's so many stories you could do with CM Punk versus a lot of people in AEW, I'd suggest. You could easily do a Punk versus Omega storyline, just their respective paths in wrestling, anything like that. Punk versus Hangman, Straight Edge versus the whiskey drinker. I mean, there's so many things. There's so many great things.
So if he is going to come back, let's not speculate that CM Punk to 2021 AEW, but it sounds like he would land in AEW if he was going to land anywhere right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm unfortunately I can never look at CM Punk stories with a level head because I was a huge fan of his, and I can't separate myself from, because when you said that, immediately my brain went yeah, so I can't. I struggle to look at it critically, really.
I get it. Hey, talking of AEW, quite an eventful Tuesday night for them. And I'm not even talking about Dark, where they made some backhanded comment about Adam Cole. No, I'm talking about on Axis TV. This was cool. Kenny Omega turning up in a big old coach with Don Callis to be a part of Impact Wrestling. Good stuff, wasn't it, Jack?
It was very, almost surreal. Shades of the simulcast with Raw and Nitro, just two worlds absolutely colliding with Impact and AEW. What did they do there? They did like a sit-down interview with Josh Matthews, and basically there's going to be more happening tonight on Dynamite from what he said. I think they said a lot. They said him and Don said a lot. There's going to be a big
announcement tonight. Well, that was the announcement, basically.
Yes, but to be fair, I think Omega and Big Don said quite a lot. Callis is a fantastic talker. He's absolutely brilliant. And I think it was just a really cool moment. But of course, they weren't the only AEW people. Well, Omega wasn't the only AEW person who showed up on the broadcast.
Absolutely not, because not only did we see Kenny Omega and Don Callis in their coach, and we'll talk a little bit about that before we get to the end of this, but Tony Schiavone and Tony Khan, the two Tonys, took out a paid advertisement.
Two-time Tony. It was double tones. I couldn't believe it. The two tones.
It's the two tones. Weren't they a ska band from the 80s?
Yes, I believe so.
So Messrs Schiavone and Khan put out a paid announcement during Impact. Sorry, a paid advertisement during Impact Wrestling, and this was interesting to watch. It was deadpan Tony Schiavone and God love him, little bit deer in the headlights Tony Khan.
I thought he did all right. He did
great.
All right.
He did great, but he looked a little bit nervous.
He did,
and I get it because this isn't his wheelhouse, like as a character on a wrestling.
It's not, but ever since he was revealed as the man bankrolling AEW, the man behind it, I was waiting, because he's a huge wrestling fan, and I was thinking, when is he going to get him? He's going to get involved at some point. He's going to do something. He's going to cut a promo. How good or bad is he going to be? And I was actually very pleasantly surprised. Big Tony Khan healing it up on Impact, saying, I could buy this company if I wanted to. I was like, TK!
It smacks of Vince McMahon in the 80s doing stuff in Memphis. Like before the Mr. McMahon character was a thing, he would turn up and he was like, "Well, look at me on Memphis television." And Jerry Lawler, "Oh, you're an idiot." It was great. It was like the green shoots of evil Mr. McMahon, and it was kind of a little element of that. And the stuff they talked, like he was very smart, very smarky. Snarky rather than smarky.
Yes.
A bit of both probably. A bit snarky when it came to talking about Impact Wrestling. They had a great little back and forth where he talked about buying it, and then he said, "Tony, didn't you work for Impact Wrestling?" And Tony Schiavone says, "Deadpan. Once, then I quit the business for 18 years.
I love Schiavone. Schiavone's the best. I absolutely love him. He's fantastic.
He's having a career renaissance right now in AEW. Is Tony
and it's
Schiavone.
Like he's never missed a beat. It's like he never left. He's so good still. Sorry, but I did divert you slightly there to talk about the two Tonys. But
I don't blame you, because it was a wonderful moment. There was a lovely little bit in the end of that where they tease Young Bucks heading over to Impact. Obviously on Monday, Adam and Andrew talked about how there was how Young Bucks have been looking at some dream matches they want to have in Impact Wrestling. It was the fact that Tony Khan drops the line, "Hey, you've got tag teams in Impact Wrestling. Great. Well, we've got the best tag team in the world, the Young Bucks, on Dynamite tomorrow night." So just going to drop that little penny in the ocean there and then see what comes up.
I feel like there's two kind of obvious dream matches from the two tag team divisions: the Bucks versus the Motor City Machine Guns, and probably FTR versus the North. I'd suggest as well. They probably stylistically match up the best with each other. But if the Machine Guns don't batter the Young Bucks, then I'm never going to watch AEW. I'm going to be so sad. I'm a big fan of the Guns.
That'll be a lovely time had by all when that time comes around. So to wrap this up, just to jump back to the Kenny thing on the coach. Kenny says there's some really good lines in this one. Kenny says that he used to collect comics when he was a kid, and he says he now has the Action Comics #1 of wrestling titles, and hints at maybe starting collecting championships, with Callis going, hey, we've got some titles here in Impact Wrestling. He hints at the AAA title and stuff like that. We could get a belt collector gimmick in 2021 for Kenny, which is pretty cool. But then they, as you said, Jack, they are teasing an announcement for tonight on Impact Wrestling. And the clue that they gave was Lex Luger, because they've already got the Lex Express. They've already got the coach. And two things spring to mind. One, 2020, you're a hell of a drug. We've got a Lex Express reference on modern wrestling television. And two, this has got to be Omega and Sting, right? Because I can't think of any other connection, unless Omega is calling out Lex Luger.
Yeah, it's going to be Lex.
Here's the clue, Luger. The answer is Luger.
Sting does seem like the most obvious one, doesn't he? It's a very... if that does happen, we'll have gone from people questioning whether Sting should even wrestle or should just be an entirely non-wrestling role. And if they do go that route, we've gone straight from that to bang, Sting versus the champion, which is a huge leap to make. So I don't know if I'm behind that. I don't know. I guess they could probably make it work.
The thing is that I think we have to step in a little bit and go, well, hold on. Because, we were very cross with Goldberg coming into WWE and just going, oh, by the way, I'm the champ now, lol, 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 lol. We have to stop and look at it with the same reverence as we would with WWE. I think a common misconception is that AEW does what Nintendo don't in WWE. And we still have to... I'm nervous if they are going for Omega Sting. I don't know if I want Omega. At least not like that.
Yeah.
Maybe Omega Allen?
Yeah.
With Sting hanging around? That
would be really cool. I agree. I think that I wouldn't be in favour of Omega Sting. Certainly not straight off the bat. But I do think that Sting's return, because I was loving it, and then a lot of people on Twitter did the whole... You're only saying that because it's AEW thing. Well, I thought that tonally it was absolutely fantastic, and it made a lot of sense as well, given the people in the ring. All three people in the ring on on Darby and Cody, Sting had some sort of parallel with, and I think they really thought it through. I don't think it was quite as slapdash as a lot of very militant WWE fans were trying to kind of make out potentially.
You've also got to remember that it's his Twitter, and if Twitter if Twitter had been around throughout time, people would have been calling out Michelangelo saying the Sistine Chapel was a hack job. So you can't take too much into that, really. But we'll see. We'll find out tonight, won't we, on Dynamite? Yes. Before Dynamite, Jack, you're on Twitch, aren't you?
I'm on Twitch tonight, this evening. We're at 6 p.m. this evening with Owen, continuing our Football Manager save, if anybody is so inclined. And... What's happening on Football Manager? Well, we've taken control of Atletico Madrid, right, in the Spanish First Division in La Liga, and it's not going too well. But we've got a strong team spirit in the dressing room. We're going to get back out there and come on, boys. Come on. Come on, boys. Cheer on Jack and Owen and the boys. That's twitch.com/Cultaholic, isn't that it? I believe. That's it. Twitch.com/Cultaholic, 6 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, Jack and Owen. Stay safe. Have a great Wednesday and love you. Bye.